Right now, February 2023 is on pace to become the warmest February on record. The warmest February on record was 2018 with an average temperature of 42.0 degrees. This February, it's so far been an average temperature of 42.5 degrees. And the month is supposed to get warmer, right? Well, not exactly. Basically, while we think that we're going to have a record warm February, what we have to understand is that big time cold is coming to the area. We were hopeful that there could be snow on February 25th to 26th, but now it looks like the storm is going to track so offshore. My Apple weather is saying that skies will be totally clear, which is obviously the worst thing you need if you want snow. March 1st, I've also been seeing a lot of conflicting sources, but my assumption is that they're all going to gravitate towards no snow, and we're going to get only a trace, maybe like 0.1 inches of snow, and that this winter is ultimately going to finish as the least snowy on record by a wide margin. Also, even if we don't see any, even if we do see snow on March 1st, if we don't see any snow before that, it will be the least snowy meteorological winter on record. Just keep that in mind. As a matter of fact, so far it's been the least snowy winter to date at every single climate site at NWS New York. So obviously if we get no more snow, we're going to finish as the least snowy winter on record. So now, here's the thing. So, as you might have heard, the East Coast is getting big time warmth today and tomorrow. Tomorrow could challenge monthly highs, but we don't think that warmth is going to be able to squeeze its way up to the New York metro area. The warm front is going to park itself just by the city, which will actually constrain our temperature to about 48 degrees. If the warm front budges further north, we could get into the 50s and even 60s and see a warm rain. But if it goes further south, temperatures might struggle to even hit 40 degrees. As of right now, it seems to be that it's going to go pretty much right by our area. So we would be able to squeak out the upper 40s. That's not good news, though. If we're trying to get to our warmest February on record, we would really want a 60-degree day. And then the temperatures will be dropping massively to a point where we're predicting a sub-freezing high on February 25th. The low we're predicting to get down to the teens, and the high we're predicting to be sub-freezing. Now, I'm not totally saying that one cold day will ruin February. February 2018, in fact, started off below average, and I think on like the 3rd or the 4th, there was a day with a high of 31 degrees and a low of 16 degrees. So I'm not totally saying that record warmth in February will be ruined by that. What I'm saying, though, is that in a borderline month already, this cold blast is going to drag us under. I still think that February is going to finish well above average. I'm skeptical to even believe that we can finish in the top 3, given how 2017 and 2012 were also nearly as warm as what 2018 could produce. What I see is this cold blast dragging us underwater, or not underwater, but like well below record territory. And a lot of these days have temperatures average out to the upper 30s. They need to average out to above 42 degrees for us to continue on record pace. And in this video, I do want to begin to discuss that a little bit, as to why this is happening. So January became the warmest on record in New York City by 0.3 degrees. But February immediately begun with below average temperatures, as the first day had a high of 38 degrees and a low of 26 degrees. The problem with that is that you're starting off below average after we weren't below average at all in January. Now we're below average. This is also where the only snow of the season fell in both Central Park and JFK Airport, although there was snow at other times in other places. In some places, December 12th was a snowiest day on record, like at Islip or at LaGuardia. And at Bridgeport, that was the only measurable snow they've seen so far this winter. Newark saw snow on both days, but they did see more on February 1st as compared to December 12th. So it's pretty much been like 1 to 2 minor snowstorms and nothing significant. That's pretty much what the tail of our winter has been with snow, and that's why we're currently at the pace of being the least snowy on record, to where if we don't see any more snow, we will finish it off as the least snowy winter on record. But I do want to talk about the about February for a second, because we were predicting a big snowstorm on February 2nd, but that failed to materialize. The storm pretty much died out. This is the ice storm that was plaguing Texas. Pretty much died out. And the day was actually slightly above average with a high of 40 and a low of 29. We were hoping that there could be some more snow on February 4th and 5th, but the storm remained too far offshore as the polar vortex paid us a visit. But what's going to help us in the warmth category was the fact that both of the day's highs were around midnight, albeit completely opposite midnight. That helped gravitate us towards warmer territory, because the afternoon highs were not what the high temperatures was. The Arctic front on February 3rd came in at about 4 a.m. So before that happened, we actually managed to choke out a high of 35 degrees. It wasn't even that windy. Wind chills were barely below freezing until, again, the Arctic front came in at 4 a.m. It was very loud as we heard the first strong winds. Strong winds actually killed a passenger in Massachusetts in their car. By the way, in case you're wondering about New England, they've been well below average in terms of their snow, but they weren't quite as sad. It seems to be that the Long Island Sound is having a blocking effect. Because even in Hartford, they're well below average, but they've seen 9 inches of snow, which, in case you're wondering, is about 20 times as much snow as we've seen here in New York. Boston also, I mean, they're well behind, but they've still seen something, whereas we down here have seen nothing, pretty much. So yeah, that was the thing. So while the afternoon high temperatures on February 3rd were only in the low 20s, I actually tried to do a cold wave chase, but failed as my phone glitched out. And even during the rush hour commute, it was only 27 degrees, even as early as 6:40 in the morning. Because it was 35 degrees at midnight, that's what goes. Because the temperature then slipped down to 11 degrees by the next midnight, this led to a daily mean temperature of 23 degrees, which you'll have a hard time believing if you don't look at the NOAA online weather data. Then we slid down to 3 degrees the morning of February 4th. While this wasn't a record, records were set at Bridgeport, Newark, LaGuardia, and JFK airports. So when you're dealing with that, on that front, you can see record cold, record warm February probably don't go together. But one cold day really can't drag down an entire month, and highs did warm to 27 degrees by the following midnight, which was higher than expected even at that midnight. That also led to a daily mean temperature of 15 degrees, which is not balmy, but not the worst thing in the world either. Considering how in the afternoon temperatures were still only about 19 degrees, again, it's hard to see, but it continued to warm after midnight. Because it was 27 degrees at midnight, that would translate to the low on February 5th, and the high managed to bust its way up to 49 degrees, Then, we didn't freeze on February 6th. We saw one last freeze on February 7th. And from February 8th to 16th, it remained above freezing. During this time, the average high was 56 degrees and the average low was 44. We almost got to a record high temperature on February 16th when we hit 70 degrees. Monthly records were set at Islip and Bridgeport. And while the high might not have been a record, the low of 56 degrees was absolutely a record. The morning low is 58, but temps did drop to 56 degrees following a shower. After our second driest first half of February record, which, by the way, storms yesterday gave us enough rain to mean that we can no longer be the driest February on record. You know, those storms plowing through our metro area, or those showers, rather, for February 16th, it can only drop the temperature to 56 degrees. That's our second warmest February low temperature, behind only February 24th, 2017, when it had a low of 58. And LaGuardia had a low of 54, which tied their monthly record. But on February 17th, after peaking in the low 60s early in the morning, the temperatures did manage to hit freezing amid our cold front. And February 18th was actually below average, when the low was 27 and the high was 43. Only slightly below average, but still below average. But temperatures have quickly been climbing back up. We had our warmest President's Day by mean temperature, with a high of 61 and a low of 47. That was on Monday. And while yesterday certainly wasn't balmy, it did have a high of 50 and a low of 37. So you have to realize that this warm streak between February 8th and 16th will be what's in the end propelling us to this record warmth. It's actually a little bit disturbing to believe that we've seen more potential tornadoes in central New Jersey than inches of snow here or in central New Jersey. And we have to see that tornado in central New Jersey gets confirmed, but it'll be the first tornado in New Jersey in February since 1999, which would be hard to believe, and just show that our winter really never happened despite that one cold blast. By the way, it has once gotten down to 3 degrees, even during meteorological spring. That has happened before. Now, does it mean that we never saw winter weather? Absolutely not. Especially considering that this was in 1872, before climate change. But still, it's something to be interested in. Now, as far as our warmest winter on record, you might think that January did a good job propelling us with our warmest January on record. The average temp was 43.5. But December was actually slightly below average by 0.6 degrees. That's an obstacle for us to overcome. And I don't think we're going to make it. I do think that this will be one of our warmest winters on record. I just don't think it's going to be the absolute warmest.